This is Geek Gab with your hosts, Dornall and me, Daddy Warpig. We are back. Geek Gab for Saturday still,
It sure is.
June 18th, 2022. Did I get the day wrong? I feel like I got the day wrong.
You got the day wrong.
So, is it the 11th?
It's the 11th.
It's the 11th. Wow. I was so excited about the 18th because I tell you what. First off, every time I announce something, it immediately goes wrong. Every time. Every time, like I announced that Rick Stump was coming on next week, and I was sure of it. We had everything set up. And then it turned out there was an emergency, and we had to make, you know, a a date for the week after that. And then we're getting up to the week after that, and there's another emergency. We had to schedule for the week after that. But presuming that things don't go poorly, we're trying to get Jim Brayfogle on for next week, which is the 18th, because he's got a Kickstarter for Mongoose and Meerkat 2 running right now through Kursova Publication, a good friend of ours. And this is where I'm getting really, really daring, knowing that every single time I mention what guest is coming on the air, the second we get off the air, it goes bad. And that literally happened last week. I will tell you about that real quick. Alex McCrease from Adamant Entertainment is currently scheduled to come on the show for the 25th, which would be in 2 weeks. So, I'm thinking about the 18th, I'm thinking about the 25th, and I wasn't even thinking about the 11th because it's not like we have anybody important coming on.
That's all right. I'll show myself out.
That's why we made this happen. That's why we had no problems because we didn't try to announce it. We just stealth invited John back on.
Yes.
But you know what happened last week, right? Where we announced what we were going to talk about this week? And then,
My memory fails me.
so like on the show's closing, and I'm like, yeah, so next week we're going to talk about Maverick and we'll be done, watching Stranger Things. So we'll review Stranger Things. So the instant I get off the air, what happens?
Well,
Uh,
I reminded you that Stranger Things only shipped half a season.
yeah, and the other half of the season isn't coming until July. So we're not even going to watch all of Stranger Things in July. So we're not going to review Stranger Things in July. But that's not even the worst thing.
What is the worst
That's
thing?
not even the worst thing about it. No, the internet at my place goes out for 7 days. So even if they had shipped the entire show right now, I couldn't have watched it. I couldn't have seen a single minute of it because I was completely cut off from every streaming thing in the world. I haven't watched a minute of anything I'm supposed to be keeping track of to review for the show just because the internet is gone poof. And that's how hard the universe works to keep me from fulfilling the announcements that I have nonetheless just made. It's crazy.
Yet you have not learned your lesson and you continue to announce things.
Yeah.
I love it.
But I did get to see Maverick though. So at least that announcement's coming true. I have defied the odds. So we want to talk about that real quick before we let our guests get a word in edgewise. Boo! Ha ha ha.
What if I take over the show and talk about Maverick instead?
Have you
John has
seen
a
it?
mute button.
I have seen it, actually. It's one of the few movies I actually bothered to go see. Yes.
Awesome.
John has a mute button.
It's the emergency mute button. Once you we let you talk, but if you risk taking over, then we have to take drastic measures.
Highway to the danger zone. Da, da, da. Highway to the danger zone.
Got him.
Damn it.
Yes. I saw Top Gun. It was great. What did you guys think?
10 out of 10.
I
Absolutely.
really liked it, but I'm going to be a contrarian and say 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. Did you dock them a point for not playing Danger Zone throughout the whole movie?
No, but it was awesome. They started off the movie with it.
Yes, they got that right out of the way. Spoilers, they start the movie off with the Top Gun theme followed by Danger Zone, and they're like, okay, that's out of the way, let's get to the movie.
Yeah, that's all I wanted. I mean, they could have just done that and ended it, and I would have been happy.
Okay.
So here's what did you think? First off, what's your summary?
Oh, my summary is it was 2 hours of sheer fun entertainment. Yeah, 9, 10 out of 10. It was, if you watched the trailer and rolled your eyes as maybe a cash grab or a nostalgia trip, this is not that. This isn't a my favorite IP reboot. It is an honest to goodness great film.
So
About the same stuff the first Top Gun one was about.
So here's the thing. A lot of movies are doing like the sneaky reboot where they bring in all these legacy characters to make you think it's about them. And I'm just thinking of the last Scream movie that I hated. I hated. But it's really instead about all these new characters, right?
I
That
remember
just-
you were really excited about that Ghostbusters movie in 2016, and you just thought it was fantastic. Unrelated.
No, I think you misunderstood. If that's what you remember.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they set it up like, oh, we're gonna see, Han, Luke, and Leia come back, and no, it's actually about these new characters. Go
Yeah.
on.
But this movie is not about some brand new characters who come into the movie with, Maverick's just kind of there. This movie is all about Maverick. It's Maverick's movie.
I was shocked by that because honestly, whenever they title something Star Wars Obi-Wan or Hawkeye or Moon Knight, you know the hero is not going to be Obi-Wan, Hawkeye, or Moon Knight. It's going to be some random female lead. And then at the very beginning of this, like after like the stunts at the beginning when they show up kind of like at that bar there, I saw them start to go to the female pilot and I was bracing myself and I was like, this is where it shifts. This is the bait and switch. But no. Continue, Daddy Warpig.
So it's not about nostalgia. They have links to the previous movie because that's his past, but it's not in a nostalgic bait way. Like his love interest in this movie is Jennifer Connelly. Her name's Penny. And one of the things I didn't catch a mention of in the movie, but in the original Top Gun, Tom Cruise got in trouble, or Maverick got in trouble, because he was involved with an admiral's daughter, right?
Mhm.
Penny is, and you never see her. She never is on screen. She's never really involved in the original Top Gun, but Penny is that admiral's daughter.
Oh, I missed that. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah, good catch.
So it's it's about Maverick and his past and his present and his long career, and they don't put stuff in there for just like nostalgia. I mean, there's plenty of things that echo the first movie, but it's not, you know, member berries. It's not, oh, that's the thing from the thing. I don't know how to describe it because it is a sequel to Top Gun, but it's not a sequel in the sense of like The Force Awakens was basically just replaying Star Wars. And this is not a replay of Top Gun.
It is a replay of Star Wars, but that's neither here nor there.
It actually literally is a replay of Star Wars.
So yeah, that it's a good movie because they aren't just trying to throw nostalgia at throw nostalgia at you, and it's just a fun movie the whole time.
Absolutely. The thing that I really was all of the great work and effects.
You are cutting out so badly, man.
Terrible. And I thought DW's internet was dead.
I must be dead.
There you are.
Am I back?
Yes.
Well, I'll start again. The thing that I really appreciate was start to finish just fighter pilots doing amazing things. It's just the pacing's wonderful. You get, you know, blood pumping fighter pilot antics linked together by, the drama and the plot and everything like that. Boom, let's have another great flight scene. Let's set up the next set of flights and then we'll just do it. And then like fully half the movie is just this amazing camera work of people actually flying these fighter jets. It's not only a good movie and a good story, but it's also a love letter to Maverick's generation of fighter pilots, the real the aces.
Yeah, and the military charged them big money to rent those jets and do that, but I think it was $10,000 an hour or something like that. And and they actually filmed it in beautiful California, Northern California, kind of over where I'm at. So,
did you have to deal with sonic booms for months while they were taping?
No, it's more north of here, kind of not where the population is, because there's that forest area and all that they were showing. They kind of did it over a non-populated area, but yeah.
No, I don't know.
Well,
you
now
casually refer to terrain in California that I have no idea what's there. I honestly, I'm a political person, so as far as I'm concerned, California starts with San Diego, continues with LA and San Francisco, and then everything north of that is like farmland.
It's beautiful.
Here be dragons.
The farmland's actually kind of in the east, and all those are on the coast. North is like these giant redwood forests, and it's just like a beautiful nature preserve, basically. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard of other things. I've heard there's these things called the Sierras, and something called Imperial Valley, and
Lake Tahoe. Don't forget that.
Yeah, the Salton Sea. But
they filmed The Godfather at Lake Tahoe. Godfather 2.
Yeah.
Sorry.
As far as I'm concerned, they just made that up to fool people into thinking there's something else outside of LA. So,
But that's what impressed me the most was like I am so sick of watching CGI fight scenes where these guys all do superhuman stunts which are completely impossible and just like it throws you out of the movie because you see them turn into a CGI doing a weird backflip off of a crane, dangling off of a building suddenly. And it's like, that wouldn't be able to be humanly possible. The guy would have died just in the fall from the crane. He wouldn't be hanging from the building right now. His neck would have snapped in the air. But in this, like, they did just like really use real jets, and so you're watching some nice real filming, and it's beautiful and it's entertaining. And the I guess the lesson Hollywood's not going to learn from this is you don't need to overdo effects and just throw as much crap in front of the screen as possible to try to distract people from the fact that there's no plot. You just got to have a plot. That's it.
Yeah.
The shots were so clean and clear. They had like at most like 3 or 4 jets in any one shot, and there's no particle effects obscuring everything, and it's just so beautiful. You could track what was going on, and when they didn't want you to know what was going on, it's because the characters in the scene didn't know what's going on, because they lost track of Maverick and he was about to pop up and do bad things. It was hilarious. I loved it. I treasured that. It was just so beautiful and sparse, so completely unlike the, Revenge of the Clones or excuse me, Revenge of the Sith uh, opening battle scene. That was so awful.
Yeah, I think I want to put what you two said together about plot and what you learn on the screen is what the characters learn, because what makes all those flight scenes so interesting and engaging is that they use the connective tissue of those scenes between for information dumps. And so you get, not only is there an advancement in the plot and the drama, but you also understand the scenario and the stakes of each flight, so that when the flight happens, there's plenty of people, characters exclaiming, this is what's happening on screen right now, but it's very little, because as you're watching it, you understand everything that's going on because they've already set it up for you and they've repeated it several times. So you're like, okay, I'm ready for the next, what's the next thing that's going to happen? And you watch it and you understand, even with all these like tight cockpit shots and quick cuts and supersonic fighter jets and everything. Um, I can't say enough good about it. It's so well put together.
Well, yeah, and a lot of these are literal training flights. And how do you make training flights have um how do
Stakes?
you make training flights have stakes, have weight? And they managed to do that. And it was absolutely uh everything in this movie was so well done with the story. Um and the cinematography just knocked my socks off. When he was the very first thing Maverick does, and this is not a spoiler because this is literally after all the stuff right at the beginning where they're playing credits and Highway to the Danger Zone and stuff, the very first thing Maverick does is take a plane out for an experimental plane. He takes it out for a test flight. And what he does um, is he's flying along high in the altitude at almost hypersonic speeds, and the sound and the cinematography and everything that's going on is just so peaceful. It's just so beautiful, and it's almost It evokes this sense of awe, of, you know, reverence is the word. Um, and it's so beautiful. It's just such a beautiful moment. The people who made this movie know what human emotions are and can evoke them in the movie. They're not just throwing scenes and stuff at the screen that they've seen other people do, but they don't really understand. They are, it's just amazing. Um, and I am so, so as soon as that happened, I knew the people making the movie knew how to make a movie. And they weren't just, you know, blindly copying.
Checking off boxes.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
I do have one problem with the whole deal, though.
Hmm?
And they kept alluding kind of to it, like, this is going to be kind of the last hurrah for fighter pilots, like, because of drones and all that. I really didn't buy that they couldn't have just sent a drone over to just do that. I mean, in reality,
Yeah.
that's what they would have done. you know, drone bomb, tactical nuke, done.
Well, now you've ruined it for me. All right.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, maybe. Still.
Well, you got to remember that drones have to be electronically controlled. If we're talking about drones instead of cruise missiles, those are two different things. Drones are remotely piloted. Cruise missiles are programmed to follow an onboard computer who runs the thing. So, are you really talking about drones, or are you talking about cruise missiles?
Either way, I don't know the specifics of which would be chosen for a mission like that. I'm not savvy to that, but I think either way would be their first attempt before trying to send a manned piloting mission into that. That isn't, either way, those seem like strictly better options, right?
Yeah, I think you just have to sort of you have to buy into that. It sounds like you didn't, but you have to buy into that. You have to accept, okay, this is a mission that, put bluntly, only Maverick can do.
Yeah, and I get that was kind of the vibe of the movie, which is fine. I did not buy that just based on kind of what I know our technological capabilities are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's okay. Didn't ruin the movie for you, did it?
Didn't ruin it for me. Still 10 out of 10. Don't care. Yeah. And that's why realism is stupid, my friends, and you should never strive for realism in your stories.
I will say this, because this is my theory on stories. A story gets its premise for free. So whatever the premise is, if you can't hang with the premise, then that story obviously isn't for you. You just have to either accept the premise or, walk away. Like some people can't hang with the premise of the core because it's so unrealistic. And I'm like, that's cool. I completely understand why you can't hang with the premise of the core. I can accept the premise of the core within the movie while knowing the science is ridiculous. So that's like the entrance fee or the cover fee for walking into a movie. This is how much you have to suspend your disbelief to enjoy this story. And then what you get to do after that is say, okay, giving them their premise, which is for free, do they do a good job carrying that out? Because they don't get everything for free. Do they do a good job carrying that out, or do they screw it up? Star Wars's premise is in a galaxy far, far away, a long, long time ago, there were space wizards and high tech. That's their premise. Did they do a good job of carrying that out? And I think in the movie Star Wars, yes, they did a great job carrying out that premise. And it carried through the whole movie. Other things that have bore that brand name have not done a good job with that. So they screwed up the premise.
You killed it. Killed it.
Yeah.
I just had to let that float there.
Did I get cut off?
There's just
No.
nothing. I'll let Ardenon have the last word. Verisimilitude for the win. That's right. So, let's talk about other stuff. Because you can only say 10 out of 10 so many times. By the way, go see Top Gun Maverick if you haven't.
That's the difficult
Yes.
thing, isn't it? When something's so good, you actually can't talk about it as much as when something's so bad, because you get into the nitpicky details when it's bad, like to justify why it's bad. But when it's good, you're just like, it's good. That's it.
Yep.
That's the show. You know.
Oh, hey, Jennifer Connelly is in it, and she's generally a really great actress in everything I've seen her in. And you know what? She does a great job in this movie.
She did. I loved her.
I mean, seriously, what else do you say about that? Oh, and Tom Cruise is in this movie, and he does generally a good job with all the roles I've seen him in. And guess
He's
what?
literally made one bad movie in his whole career.
What movie was
Only
that?
one. Do you want to remember it, or do you want to just bathe in your forgetfulness?
No, I want to remember.
The Mummy.
Oh shit. Oh yeah. Yep. Oh, I forgot that he. Yeah. Okay.
And,
Only one.
and Tom Cruise is also good in this. And the cinematography, good. Sound effects, good. I mean,
Kid who was
really,
Rooster was really good too, and he looked
Yeah.
like Goose, like almost exact.
Miles
Great casting.
Teller, who is the actor who's done a lot of stuff. He did a good job. I mean, what I can start just listing all the elements of the movie and saying this is good, this is good, this is good. They have a guy who I have seen before, but he's never been a major role. He's called Hangman. He's kind of like the Iceman of this movie, sort of. Like he's the rival of Goose's son, who's called Rooster. And he does a great job at being this raging butthead.
Love it.
You hate him. And
You
he's
love to hate
so
him.
good at it. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting about sequels and in general that does kind of play sour for the original movies that I know you gentlemen are going to overlook because you don't care about such things, but the romance aspect of the storylines, which was really well done in Maverick, also, but it was also really well done in the original movie. The original movie like implies happily ever after, and when there is a little sour note that you get that the happily ever after like just evaporated after that movie, and now he's on to this chick. That is a thing, you know. I like happily ever after. They did that with Star Wars too. They ruined it, like when like in the new ones when Han Solo's like, oh he didn't just stick with Princess Leia, he just went off. Oh
Yeah, I was a little disappointed.
you know, and when you get that, so they try to create conflict between characters because they don't know how to write characters with stable families in Hollywood, because they have none in Hollywood. It does. Honestly, it does. That is a sour point for me in general, and I was a little soured on that. I actually looked it up to find out why that gal was not in this movie, and they weren't like together. And I get it, you know, Maverick's got the character, you know, he's the fly boy doing, you know, whatever. But I looked it up, and she's like, yeah, I didn't even get asked to come back. She's like, I don't. She's like, I'm like a 65-year-old woman. I'm kind of fat, and I look like a 65-year-old woman. That doesn't play for Hollywood. And I'm like, yeah,
Right,
well,
yeah.
that's true.
Very, very
Yeah.
shrewd.
But
It's a shame.
I'm just reinforcing your point. I could start listing all the elements of the show, and just saying, well, this was good, this is great,
Yeah.
this is good, this, and all I would be doing is just pointing out separate things. I will say this: they had to do this show, they had cameras put in the back seat of a two-seater F-18. And every time you see the pilots getting filmed, obviously Tom Cruise and these other young kids are not really flying the planes themselves on screen, but they're in the back seat and it's staged to look like they're flying the planes. And what they're actually doing is they're operating the cameras while at the same time they're acting. So they had to learn and practice cinematography, how to frame the shots, how to pan, how to focus in and focus out. They had to learn to do a cameraman's job in order to shoot their interior scenes
That's neat.
for any time it had shown up in the movie. And that's something that actors just normally don't have to deal with. So the fact that every one of those, secondary characters plus Tom Cruise himself had to learn how to run that is actually pretty impressive. And it took I think 6 months of training to get it where they could churn out footage that that was good enough for a movie. And so that's not just good in terms of, yeah, it's a great movie and everything they did was good. That's actually, really impressive.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, everything about it was impressive all the way around. So, how's it doing? Is it crushing it dollars wise?
I'm pretty sure it's a big hit.
Yeah, it's made massive amounts of money. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but
Top Gun box office. Let's see. See where we're at. 357 million and 700 million globally. So, it's still not doing a Marvel brand numbers, that's disappointing, honestly.
it is. Maybe they were hoping on nostalgia to drive sales, ticket sales. I don't know. But hey, it's a genuine great movie, which they don't come out often. So
I mean, 700 million is nothing to snuff at. I mean, that is a that's I'm sure they made money off that like pretty well, but that's also I mean, those stupid the stupid Doctor Strange movie, which is terrible, I think did $1 billion, right? So, man, disappointing.
I believe it.
Am I right? Let me look at the Doctor Strange box office totals. Doctor Strange Multiverse box office. Okay. 800 million globally. When was this? So it's actually on par. It's close. So, okay.
On par
Maybe I'm
with
wrong.
a bad Marvel movie. Okay,
On
maybe.
par with a bad Marvel movie. Yeah.
All right.
I don't think Doctor Strange is a failure. I think Doctor Strange actually did very well.
People are sort of hungry for movie going. In fact, the Top Gun begins with Tom Cruise, personally thanking everyone for coming out and watching his movie, which I liked.
All right. So I've got a list now of the top grossing films for superhero movies. And it looks like actually kind of the middle of the pack standard of them is that 800 million mark. So this might hit that because it's still in theaters, right? Mm-hmm. So it's at 740 something. So it could very well get into this range. So if you're looking at like Thor Ragnarok and Spider-Man: Homecoming, like those are all in the 800 million range. Oh, Doctor Strange now has hit 900 million. So okay, so that's kind of lame. Now I don't think anything I don't think anything post pandemic has hit a billion other than Spider-Man: Far From Home. That's what it looks like. Far From Home is not post pandemic, is it? No. So nothing post pandemic has hit a billion. Doctor Strange is actually the closest. Interesting. Says the top grossing post pandemic movie.
I don't know how to interpret that, but it's probably not good.
I don't know either.
All right. Do we want to go to science fiction?
I love science fiction, friends.
I hear there's a science fiction comic or something or other.
Speaking of top grossing.
Welcome.
Yes.
Yeah, welcome back. Should we introduce our guest who's been hanging out with us for 30? Is anybody here who doesn't know?
They all know
Jon
me.
del Arroz?
It's okay. They've
Everybody
probably already
knows.
backed it too. So we can go home now.
We don't know who's going to end up.
Good
We
show,
don't
good
know
show.
who's going to end up listening to this, so we should just give a short introduction at least.
Jon del Arroz, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. Someone called you that, and it stuck, I think.
Oh, it's amazing.
You write...
I actually call myself that as a joke first. I don't remember where I saw the joke because I saw some alphabet person making some, title like that. And so I just then labeled myself that snarkily as a joke. And then PJ Media, Megan Fox, a wonderful reporter, picked it up and actually put it in the article. And then it just kind of spiraled from there. It upset a lot of people. But yes.
It's a great point. Like, how do you get that title? Well, I mean, I guess sometimes you just give it to yourself. Let's go.
Yes.
But yeah, avid writer of all sorts of science fiction. You do novels, short stories, and most recently in the past few years, you've been knocking out comics all the time.
Yeah, I love
1,000
comics.
pages, I read
I know.
somebody on Twitter say.
I know. Again, I have to highlight this stuff because I can't get it talked about for some reason, and I find that odd because I always see there's the multiple complaint thing I see on Twitter that I see all the time. We often highlight in our circles, and my good friend Brian Niemeyer does this also. The why aren't there any conservatives in culture? Those tweets, and we highlight those. And every time a blue check mark tweets one of those from the Daily Wire or Breitbart or whatever, we all come in, we pile on as a team around these parts. It's great. And and then they never reply. Never. Not once do they end up promoting us. Not once do they end up writing articles about us. It is just like, I feel like they just write those tweets just to get engagement. And a lot of people do just write tweets to get engagement. And it's just like, it's maddening. But in the comic circles, especially in the indie spheres, I always see we're going to need to come out with comics faster than this if we're going to compete with Marvel and DC. Why is nobody doing that? And I just sit here every time like, why aren't you buying mine? Because I've been doing that since 2018. At this point, I've slowed down a little bit. And the reason I've slowed down is because it actually behooves me to stay on a book for 2 or 3 months to sell that one book and over and over again, just because repetitiveness does work for advertising. But I was absolutely coming out with monthly comic books. And Overmind is the equivalent of 3 comic books worth of content. It's like a full graphic novel. So this is, again, three comic books worth of stuff. So I've come out with 43 comic books, including Overmind, since 2018. So if you do that, it's been about 3.5 years, and that's almost a monthly comic. And I think I'm the only person outside of Dark Horse Comics or in Image Comics, like that's in an independent sphere that's actually done that. And it drives me crazy that like I see that question over and over again, and yet these people don't actually support the one that's actually doing it, and nobody mentions it. Comic magazines don't mention it. Bleeding Cool will never mention it. Comic Book Resources will never mention it. Bounding into Comics will mention it. That's the only one. But it's just crazy out there to watch this. Like I've done it, and it's really interesting. It shows me that the credit in the industry is really just given to insiders, and they really discount outsiders 100%. And it's frustrating. Now that being said, we built something pretty good, and this is like my third most successful crowdfund ever. I don't mean to be negative. It's growing. We're winning. We are getting a lot of backers, and I think that's a testament to the product, that it can withstand that, and we can achieve growth without that media assistance and without the general comic public even knowing that this exists. So cool.
That's great news. If I could bother to make a guess, it sounds like you are in the position of having to do your growth the old-fashioned way. You are slowly building up your brand. It's going to take years. People are going to see years. The great work that you do when when we have or had a mature publishing industry. If you got in with the right people, you could be catapulted. You could be the next John Scalzi or whatever. Just get your stuff thrown out in front of a bunch of people, and enough of it'll stick that you could make a living.
But if you look at those people, even those people, like if you look at like their trajectory, and everybody, I always see this, and look, I get frustrated by it too, because I'm like, Overmind is clearly a cut above most of the indie stuff out there, like if not like 95% of it out there. But yet at the same time, I see a lot of schlock get there because of name brands and whatever. But you got to remember that like the name brands, the names that you recognize that are making 50, 100K on these books, those guys have been in the industry like 20, 30 years. I've been in it 4, right? So that and I'm an impatient guy, and of course, like all of us are impatient at this point, right? Because our societal model at our age, we have way less of attention span, and of course, the next generation after us has even less of an attention span. So instant gratification is the norm. We have Amazon Prime to deliver whatever we want. We can stream whatever movie we want. We can get whatever we want instantly, and like actually trying to build a career, like going door to door, proverbially selling book to book, is something that like is definitely out of the nature of what we're used to. It's interesting. I didn't mean to talk about this today. I'm just
you mean you can stream whatever you want.
Daddy Warpig cannot stream whatever he wants because he's had no internet for 7 days. The poor soul.
What's that like? Hey, I know what you mean. It's one of the things that's sort of, and if you really want to go deep into sort of the problems or challenges of our current society and the way we consume things, it's that scale that you're at where you've got the ability to get all these things that you want, and what it serves to do is break us apart.
Yes.
We're becoming atomized, or we've become atomized. It's very easy to spend your whole life, indoors or in your house, interacting with 3 or 4 people, and that's it.
I think in terms of creators, specifically writers of books and comic creators, this is a problem. And I'm not criticizing indies for this. I'm criticizing the mainstream, big 5 publishers in Marvel and DC. Every crappy book published hurts the market for every other book published. Because
Yes,
people read
and
it.
go ahead.
People read
Sorry.
it. It's trash. And they're loath to spend money on the next thing. And you're training them to not get to not buy books as a medium at all. And they can always find something else, movies or video games or whatever.
And
then,
it's
of
easier.
course,
Yes.
and it's easier. And those mediums are also putting out crap now too, so they're even driving audiences away from that. And the problem is so many people have stopped reading that it's not just a matter of getting your audience or earning your audience from a large pool of enthusiastic readers, which was the difficulty back in, say, the 20s and 30s, so 100 years ago, where virtually everybody in society, read, and they all bought magazines on a weekly basis. And or in the 50s, when literally copies of comic books would sell in the millions on a monthly basis. Millions of copies of a Superman comic on the monthly basis. It's no longer a problem of getting a slice of a massive amount of readers. It's now a problem of getting 40,000 people, which is all the readers are. I just saw an article yesterday where, I was listening to a video yesterday by a YouTuber who said that the readership base for comics on Kickstarter, which this is not a slag on Kickstarter, this is actually much higher than any other platform, much higher than Indiegogo, much higher than any other indie platform, is between 3,000 and 6,000 people. So that's who you've got to sell to right now. So if you're getting a substantial percentage of those 3,000 to 6,000 people, either from the people who use Kickstarter or people coming with you from Twitter or your Patreon or whatever else you've set up, managed to draw an audience to, you are doing well. You are succeeding incredibly well. I believe I saw you have almost 1,500 people in Overmind.
No, 250. So a lot less than that.
I'm sorry.
Yes. I would love to have 1,500 people. If we had 1,500 people, I think this would be a real crazy cooking business. 250 is doing great though. At this juncture, yeah. And we're only 20 days into the campaign. So my biggest ever was Flying Sparks Volume 1, which there were extenuating circumstances behind that back in 2017, kind of with online movements going crazy. So I count that as an outlier. I got 800 and I think 20 backers on that. And then Dave's Vault did very well with, I think it was like 500 backers or so. And, but those were much higher than normal. Dave's Vault showed that we're on our way up. What's it called? A High School Girl in the Crusades did 420 backers as a parody of Dave's Vault, which is amazing by itself. Now, Indiegogo also looks different backers than Overmind. While I had 420 backers on Indiegogo, I actually only had 280 unique backers because Indiegogo lets you back twice and 3 times and 4 times, depending, buying those a la carte products. Kickstarter does not inflate those numbers because you don't, everything you buy is under one backing, no matter what it is. So we're actually, if a High School Girl in the Crusades did 280 backers and we're still got 40 days left of this and we're at 250, this is shaping up to be much bigger, right? And so we are growing. We're not growing at astronomical rates, but we are growing at like a good clip. And that's where
So,
we're at. Yeah.
so the difficulty that indies face is that you are having to reach people who've gotten out of the habit of buying comics.
And I have to do it a different way too. So this is where it's a real difficulty. Is my backers were on Indiegogo, and they've gotten in the habit of buying things on Indiegogo. I not only have to convince them to buy this comic in general, which is a different genre, a new property, right? Even though it's me, it's different. I have to convince them to do it on a different platform. And the fact that we're actually
Yeah.
seeing growth while moving platforms. And if you guys don't know, Indiegogo banned me about 3 months ago, so I cannot be on there. The fact that we're growing despite that challenge is actually really amazing.
So yeah, there was some discussion in the Pulp Rev group about well, it was a bit of nostalgia looking back towards the days of Jeffro's editorialship in Castalia House.
Oh,
And
those
people
were the days,
talking
my
about,
friend.
yeah, people were talking about how fun that was, and I was knocking out a column a week, taking on people and writing fun stuff, and everybody else was putting out stuff. And it was great. I mean, it was fun. I will not lie. Those were great days. But I wanted to point out that that was not the high water mark of the Pulp Revolution. The problem is that was what set us up. That was what that is what we built our confidence on.
Correct.
That was our debut, right? That was our coming out ball. And I'm using that in the Southern sense, not in the
Not in the Pride Month
LGBT
sense.
not in the Pride Month sense, right? We came out, we staked our territory, we put our movement on a solid historical and cultural ground. We announced ourselves, we got notice, and a lot of people got upset, and a lot of people started to come in and even if they don't write pulp inspired work fully, they started reading pulp more and started getting influenced by it.
Yes.
So
It's
what
grown like
comes-
crazy. Like just
Yeah.
the amount of authors, the amount of people interested in these circles. I've seen a lot, and it's really good. And even though we don't have that kind of centralized point anymore, where we're really having that kind of discussion, and I think there's been a couple other issues that have happened that are not due to people or the movement being an issue or anything like that. But I mean, Twitter's algorithms change now to where they're showing top tweets and not live tweets, so you can't even interact with people like you used to be able to. Facebook is such a train wreck, like it doesn't even show posts to anybody, I don't think. Like Amazon now doesn't have the also bots that they're kind of cross promoting people with. You have to pay to play on there now. So all these platforms have just locked themselves down to a point where it's really difficult to get discovered. And because of that, it's kind of made people kind of into their own silos and isolated people a little bit more. We talked about that with the pandemic, which didn't help either on that level. But it made it look like that. But there's a lot of us out there. It's huge, and it's really on the precipice of just blowing up. I gotta reiterate that.
My point is that wasn't the high mark of the pulp revolution, because that's when we earned our intellectual and artistic legitimacy, our cultural legitimacy. That's when we laid claim to a vast swath of territory. And what you have to do after that That's when we made a lot of claims. That's when we made a lot of boasts. That's when we faced a lot of people down, which is fine. We absolutely needed to do that. That's what gave us the courage and the motivation to take the next step, which is doing the work. That is where we're at now. It's the earning our bones, right? It's the making our bones stage. It's the earning our stripes stage, right?
That was the lesson I took from Jeffro and all those columns. If you look at all the pulp stuff from the 40s and the 50s, I mean, those guys were just cranking out stories, and we're not talking a book a year. We're not talking, just try to do a trilogy or whatever. I mean, and that's the lesson I took from it, was the object of this is to really get out as much story as physically, humanly possible. And that's why I'm at 1,000 comic pages. That's why I'm at 17 novels over these years. I really just sat there, and that was the lesson I took from it. Look, I've got a bombastic personality on Twitter and through my YouTube videos and things like that. But I am sitting behind the scenes, really just cranking this stuff out and working my tail off, and that's what Edgar Rice Burroughs did. That's what Robert E. Howard did. That's what pretty much all these guys did, and that's what we should be doing. Yep.
Yeah, this is not a low point. Raul, Yakov, Kursova, all the authors who get published in Kursova, these are not people who are at a low point. These are people who are working hard. And all the other Pulp Rev authors, these are people, and me not mentioning you is not meant to be a slight. I have to, I'm trying to condense.
No, I got you. You're
good. We are building the basis of future success, and it is not flashy. It is not as fun. It is not as snarky. There's no, Daddy Warpig marketing people on the internet to get entertained by like that. But it is so necessary, and it is exactly what we needed to do after we marked our territory. And it is, I'm going to say this, and I hope this doesn't sound condescending, because this is absolutely not meant to be. I am so damn proud of everyone in the Pulp Revolution who has been so hardworking and keeps on turning out books and has not been discouraged because they haven't reached a level of prominence or success that they, deserve or feel like they deserve, who has not been, who has not been helped by these other bigger conservative voices. You guys are doing exactly what you need to do to see success further down the line. And I agree with your conclusion, John, when you said that, it's beginning or getting close to breaking bid.
It's getting close.
Yeah, I said that, 5 years ago in my columns and in comments on Twitter and stuff, that sooner or later this would break out. And I didn't know when, and I didn't know who it would be, but it will happen if we kept on working at it. And we have kept on working at it. We are honing our skills, developing our talents, and as long as you keep on doing that, you are prepping yourself, you are putting yourself in the right position for when good things and lucky things happen to you, that you are ready to take advantage of it. You are doing everything now to lay the groundwork for opportunities to happen to you. So yes, this is not the fun that you would expect it to
It's
be.
a grind. Pulp is a grind. It's always been a grind, and that's that you gotta love grinding. That's I guess that's the main lesson of how to do it. And I came out with a little, maybe a bit of a negative tone on this. I didn't mean to, because again, this is by far the most successful launch we've had. This is by far getting the most buzz out of anything we've had. This is all going really well, and I'm trying to use my platform to, of course, help people. I brought on Jacob, who's launching his quarterly Substack thing earlier this week. You guys are bringing on Jim Brayfogle, which is great. I backed that earlier this week also. I just got Thune's Vision in the mail. All the good stuff. Oh man, I just started reading it last night, John. Okay, sorry. There great things are happening, and I'm sorry I didn't talk the project, but it is interesting to see how it is just it's a snowball. It's really not a zero, the 0 to 1,000 backers or whatever is an outlier. And if you see that, that doesn't happen, and that's not what you can expect to happen. But what we'll see here is we're going to see, by the end of this, we're going to see a growth here that is sending waves. I mean, I see people, it's been interesting. It's been quiet the last few years. Back in 2017, 2018, the Scalzies, the Marvel pros, they used to throw fits at me. And then they got really quiet for a few years. And what that told me when they were quiet was they thought that the strategy is going to be we'll give these guys no airtime. And that's going to starve them of oxygen. But now they're opening their mouths again. And to me, that's saying, okay, they're becoming a big enough of a threat now that we'd better say something and try to cancel them to put a stop to it. That's a really good sign. A really good sign. And I think that we're just around the corner from something so huge. And this is going to be the start of it. I'm going to try to push more science fiction and fantasy out in comics. I mentioned that before with Days Volt last time we were on here. I think, I like my superhero stuff and I'm working on it too. But I think we need to really holistically look at what comics was in America the last 50 years and be like, whoa, I'm reading a June 1962 omnibus right now. I'll actually hold it up there. Here it is. This is June 1962 Marvel. Every book in June 1962 right here. And it's got Westerns, it's got horror, it's got science fiction, it's got romance, it's got everything. It's got there's only 3 superhero books in here. And this is telling me that the comic industry at this point, when the pulps were still a thing, healthily had different genres going on and not just superheroes. And so that's what I'm trying to focus on now, is bringing up properties that are non-superhero to be on side by side with my superheroes, just like June 1962. And that way we can get a healthy comic industry and genre again, in order to really bring it back and regress back to this point. This is the point we need to regress to, not 1994. Regress harder, my friends.
Well said.
Yeah. So I get the feeling that some people have been feeling down, or frustrated, or
it goes in waves. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that you should know that you are doing exactly what you need to do, that you are doing the hard work of building towards success. And it is admirable, and it is amazing to see, and you are doing exactly what you needed to after. I mean, if we had stayed in that fun zone of mocking people, of picking fights with other science fiction and fantasy groups, of publicly, mocking the hard buds, or getting in fights with the woke, that would have showed that we were not serious about being successful as writers, that we were not serious at promoting the pulp literature and at promoting reading. But that's not what we did. we went into working hard and actually building the craft and actually writing and actually publishing. You don't know how big that is. I mean, if I can insult some peeps here, look at what Comicsgate became.
Ah, those are my friends. Daddy Warpig, don't do this.
It's a poop show. They broke apart into dozens of different little factions, and they're all infighting, and they're all throwing dirt at each other. And there are people publishing. I'm not saying they're not, but they're just, it's a mess. I'm not even involved, but just being on the periphery is chaotic, and there's grudges, and there's people trying to tear each other down, and there is reports, they're falsely reporting each other's crowdfunding, and
Oh yeah, I am the victim of that. That's true.
it's just awful. But the Pulp Rev pivoted from marking its territory, establishing intellectual credibility, establishing cultural credibility, establishing artistic credibility, from defining and defending. Because you got to remember, before we came along, the pulps were looked at as the crappiest of the crap, as the cheapest of the cheap, as stuff that's not even worth thinking about as science fiction or fantasy, as forgotten stuff, everything that people had thrown away. And we went back and made it respectable. And we went back and hauled it out and threw it around and made people want to read it again, and are still making readers to this day. We still have people coming to us on Twitter and other places who start reading pulp stories or Amber or whatever because we boost these books, because we say how awesome they are and how much fun they are. We don't go around, just crapping on everybody else's stuff. We push good stuff. And as soon as we got that period of saying, yes, pulps are great and you should read them, and establishing credibility on that, and making sure we set out clear markers to bring the pulps back into respectability, to bring these authors back into readability, what we immediately pivoted to was hard work. And I don't know that I've thought about this for a long time. I guess I haven't said anything about it because I haven't heard anybody else talking about it. And maybe I should have said something earlier. It's been 4 years. I should probably have said something in the last 4 years. But it's been very important to me to notice. It's been very important to me as I've worked with the Pulp Rev. We pivoted to the hard work of writing, of criticizing, of working on covers, of hiring editors, of advertising, and of getting published. And along the way, we've been taking lumps. Along the way, we've been disappointed that people aren't reading it in big numbers, or as big numbers as we think we should. Along the way, we've maybe been losing money on this. But we kept it up anyway. And I'm telling you that those 4 years have not been wasted, because all of that work is learning the skills that you will need when things become successful. You will need to continue doing all of the things that you've been learning how to do these last 4 years. And maybe you still need to hone your skills more. Maybe you still need to develop your talents more. Maybe you need to get better at writing. I'm not saying that people get better at writing all the time. You go back and read their first books compared to their latest books, and then you go read them in 10 years, and you see there's a lot of improvement for every writer. But doing this work is what sets you up for success. So I'm sorry if I haven't said anything in the last 4 years to let you know how impressed I am that people have kept up doing the work, that people have not been out breaking down into factions and tearing each other down, that people help each other out and pass along advice and do their best to ensure that everybody is as well prepared as they can for success. How impressed I am just by the level of stick-to-itiveness, of hard work, of devotion.
Perseverance.
Perseverance. Thank you. That's the word I'm trying to think of. You guys are amazing. And, the cover artists you guys have contacted who have been working on this are amazing people. The artists who work on the comic books we published have done amazing work. You guys do not have the budgets that the big five or the big two have. And you've been doing work that shames them.
Well, it's not hard with their aesthetic styles these days, which are... okay, that's another rant, sorry.
So keep on doing what you're doing, and don't worry if this feels like a low point. It's not a low point. It is laying the groundwork for success. I keep on repeating that because I really want you to remember it. You're doing exactly what you need to do.
Thanks, CW. I do forget that. I definitely do.
From the bottom of my heart, I wish all of you well, and I'm glad I have been here on this journey with you, and I'm glad that I have been able to do to help in my own way people along the way. So keep it up. Things are going to break, and those of you who have stayed with it are going to be the ones who benefit. That's it.
That's it. That's the show.
Oh.
Well said, man.
Sorry.
So much needed encouragement from you, Daddy Warpig. I'm glad the Pulp Rev guys are here to hear that. Thank you for saying that. We do need to wrap up soon, so I want to pivot back to the work that Jon is doing. I'm going to put this Kickstarter back up on YouTube.
God, I went an hour and 10 minutes and I didn't promote my book. My God.
That's right. It was something like 45 minutes ago when I finished introducing, and I didn't even get to the part where, and he's come out with a new comic book that you can find called Overmind. Why don't we finish things off the right way? Why don't you tell everybody who's listening what it is that you've done now, and do you feel sorry for yourself?
No, this is great, and this is the most exciting world I've developed so far. So basically, I took some elements like Warhammer 40K. You got the whole that whole Earth Empire and all that, and I kind of extrapolated that. So we've got our Terran Imperium. And the Terran Imperium has enemies foreign and domestic, and Ayla Rin, our secret agent right here, has been conscribed to, handle the Empire's dirty work. So she goes out there. If there's rebellions brewing on the fringes of the outer worlds and all that, she takes care of them. And in this one, there's a planet that's seeming to have some problems and is tied in with some piracy that's going on within the Empire. She shows up and finds out that a artificial intelligence has been slowly brainwashing this entire planet to follow it and worship it like a god in a cult-like manner. If you want to get back to old pulps, ray guns, jetpacks, of course, that whole cult element is very big in pulp stories. You go back to Conan, like almost every single one of them has some weird cult thing going on with it. And this is basically James Bond in space, but a hot redhead with big tits. And so that is what we're trying to do right here. It's a lot of fun, high action adventure. We use the aesthetic of like the 70s French bandes dessinées comics to be able to make like this sort of like really bright, colorful picture out there, which I love. I really dislike the muted dark colorings that most comics have these days. And it's just a lot of fun. Now, on top of that, it's our most ambitious artistic project to date, and here's the reason why. I'm also writing a novel with this. So to get the full story, you get the comic and the novel. The novel has its own story for it. Ayla's on a separate mission that kind of spirals out of this one. And it's going to start building the world. So we're building this giant space opera science fiction universe, not only in comics, but in novels, to where we can really hammer into details of just cool things going on in the galaxy, cool character things that we can drill into because there's more space in novels than there are in comics, obviously. And that story, gosh, I haven't even talked about that. I've never talked about that story. So we got the AI in OVERMIND, which is obviously a allegory for social media and how it's wrecking people's mentalities. This one, she finds out there is a spore on this planet which is said to be able to grant eternal life, and these people from the planet are working on exporting it. Now, the Empire doesn't want this because if everybody lives forever, you start to have problems with society, which I detail in the book. But on top of that, the spore has problems which it erodes everybody's long-term memories. So they only have short-term memories for the most part. And they can't remember how to even do mundane things like fry an egg without computer assistance. Also, obviously, an allegory for present society. Lots of action, lots of explosions, and it's a lot of fun. Come check it out today, guys. Again, this is already our most successful launch. It's our third most successful campaign of all time, and we're not even halfway done with it yet. So we are on our way up. Things are going good. And I appreciate you guys' support. You guys have been awesome. Everybody in the chat, I recognize all of you, so I appreciate you being there over the years. And I appreciate John and Daddy Warpig, too. John, this is how nice John is. I showed up in Seattle like 3-4 years ago, and I was like, bro, can I crash with you? I don't have anywhere to crash. And he totally let me, like I was some like hobo or whatever. He was a very nice guy. So
I
appreciate that still.
Didn't even have to register an Airbnb.
He's like, that's weird, but okay.
It's like you could have given me 24 hours notice instead of 10.
Well,
but that's all right.
Yeah, I know. My bad. That was a weird situation because I had things set up and they all fell through, and yeah. Oh well, that was a lot of fun hanging out that weekend, I got to say.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's it, I think. Thanks, Daddy Warpig.
This is awesome. I love seeing the bright colors, like you said. You mentioned the French comic books. Valerian, that's an influence, right?
That's the big influence, yeah.
The big influence.
And I actually ran a poll on Twitter, and I'm very sad about this poll result too. I was like, how many of you have read Valerian? And it was like 85% of the people who responded it said no. And I was like, oh, that hurts me to my heart.
Never even heard of it. I hadn't even heard of it until the movie came out. They made a movie, Valerian, and we did it for the show. And if we hadn't done the show on it, I never would have learned anything about it.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. And that's so big in Europe. Like, it really goes to show that, like, how bifurcated everything is. It's interesting. But
they had
good
a
book.
Humble bundle like a month ago.
Oh, from Cinebook with all, and it didn't just have Valerian. It had awesome comics in it that I read a lot of those from Cinebook. That's a really great company.
So I got in on that humble bundle because it was $25 for all of Valerian plus all those other things, and so
Great deal.
I read the first three volumes of Valerian now, and
Isn't
it
that
is
neat?
just great stuff, just awesome.
Yeah. You can see why I'm going that direction once you read it. Once you read that, it's like flip switch. This is what comics should be. Wow. Yeah.
And you've got your, like you mentioned, the 70s aesthetic. You've got this futuristic setting, and science fiction gets a lot of its aesthetics from an old German film called Metropolis. I'm
Yes,
sure
which I've
you've
watched.
seen that.
Yep.
Yeah, really, really cool film. Of course, it's like 1924, and it's black and white, and it's absolutely fascinating to watch. But it doesn't have to be dark. You
No.
know that just like ancient Greece, they painted those columns, right? It wasn't just like white stone everywhere. Uh, it doesn't
It
have to be dark and dreary. You can
it
have
doesn't
that
have to be
same.
dark and dreary colors wise, aesthetics wise. And I also view that as the case for plot and character wise. So while we have a big Terran Imperium, an empire, if you will, those are always painted very negatively in movies and all that these days. But I have a character, this Ayla character, has zero doubt that the Empire is a good thing, zero doubt that what she's doing is a good thing. She's just doing her heroic duty. She's working for king and country, and that kind of patriotism, just being unbridled without fear or doubt, you never see in characters. And that's something I wanted to hammer home, because it's okay to like what you're doing and to believe that you're doing right. That's okay. Isn't that weird to say? But
It
yeah,
does. It is. Plus, it makes for a
yeah,
pretty good story.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap up. John, thanks so much. It's great to talk to you as always. I love seeing what you're up to. It's good to catch up.
Thanks, my
Um,
friends.
everybody in the chat's awesome. It's been a lively chat. I haven't clicked in on you guys, but everybody's a fan here. I hope everybody listening later really enjoyed the conversation. If you haven't seen Top Gun yet, go see it. If you have questions or doubts about the future of the Pulp Rev, go re-listen to Daddy War Pig's pep talk, and go check out Overmind. Thanks again for being here, and thanks to Daddy War Pig for being the best host ever. I'm signing off for this week. Take it away.
Yeah, I would like to also like to thank our guests for coming on. Go ahead and go check out the Overmind Kickstarter and back it. Go check out Mongoose and Meerkat 2. And hopefully, if things roll out correctly, we'll have Jim Brayfogle on next week. And if not, we'll have something equally awesome. And I want to thank everybody who came and listened live, and especially thank everybody who listened later. Remember, we do this live, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on youtube.com/geekgab. That's youtube.com/geekgab. You can also catch us on the Google Play Store, on SoundCloud.com, and on the Apple iTunes Store. Just do a search for Geek Gab, and you can listen to us on the device of your choice or on the web. We are signing out for today, folks, but don't you worry, don't you fret. We will be back.